now turn up.
What up is me and Jackson. We're going to be going through a actual draft that happened, a rookie draft. We're going to be going through the first round. But if you're new to the channel, we're going to be giving away a Jerry Jeudy signed jersey. I did that right? Yep. All you have to do is be a subscriber for a chance to win. When we hit 1K, we're going to be giving it away to one of you guys. So, I see a lot of different patterns that are going to be starting to develop, and this is kind of one of these classic patterns that I saw from not only the draft that I saw, but the part of drafts that I've seen from other leagues and other results that have been coming in post-draft. So I wanted to talk about it, explain it, maybe do some deviations or do some counters to some of the patterns that are starting to develop. 101, though, is Najee Harris. That is an easy one. I think you're going to see that in probably 80% of leagues, I would say. I think that's going to be kind of the easy, I would say, not consensus 101, but vast majority 101, Najee Harris. So we don't really have to talk much about it. He's my 101 as well. But 102, this is where I see a lot of teams sneaking in and trying to get Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, of course, with Burrow, they see the high upside of that situation. They still have T. Higgins there. They still have Tyler Boyd there. Now, they still have Joe Mixon out of the backfield there. So I think you're going to see Chase at 102 a lot more than you would have maybe a couple weeks previous or even a week previous because of ETN and Javonte Williams landing spots. They weren't amazing landing spots. They didn't go to Atlanta. They didn't go to Miami. They didn't go to the New York Jets. And I think if you would have saw that, you would have saw one of these other running backs sneak ahead of Chase in a lot of drafts. But I think Chase is going to be 102 in a ton. Would I prefer the running backs over Chase? Yes. I would prefer ETN and Javonte Williams over Chase, and I would even prefer I would prefer Chase over Pitts though in this situation. But you're going to see Chase and Pitts, which is another thing I'll be talking about very soon here. These two players are going to be moving up boards because they're not super thrilled with some of these running backs. But what you have to know is these running backs, there's top three, and then there's a huge downfall. And we knew that, but we can actually see that with even the NFL draft capital. 4 running backs taken in the top 3 rounds, which is a huge drastic change. So one of the big things that I want to talk about is, of course, Chase being 102, 103 being ETN. ETN is my 103, but I have Javonte Williams as my 102. With him being 103, it's not an awesome situation. It's a standard situation. And with that being said, I think I think ETN's fine there. I think he's going to be a good running back there. He's not going to have the massive majority of carries. Like, you're not going to see him being a top 5 touches per game in the NFL. But you're going to see him act like a lot of Kamara touches. 15 to 20, but be very efficient with those touches. So a good situation there. Number 4, this is where Kyle Pitts comes in, and I could see him being super high into this 104 range. I'm not taking him there. He's still 107 to me. I'm taking him behind the 3 running backs, the top 3 wide receivers. I have much more faith in those players over Kyle Pitts, who I love Kyle Pitts, but it's one of those things. He's a unicorn. Do we see this tight end be something that we've not seen a tight end before? I've seen him tight end 2 overall in Dynasty, tight end 3 overall in Dynasty, and I think that's really hard to say for a guy who's not even stepped on the NFL field. I mean, oh, that was a weird noise that you made. All right, so 104 is Kyle Pitts. I'm moving him down a lot, down to 107-ish area, unless I am desperately needy at tight end, which some people are, and there's a lot of teams that probably are. 105, Javonte Williams. This is where I am just loving the drop to 105 because Denver, Melvin Gordon's going to be gone after this 2021 season. That is where Javonte Williams is going to start thriving. Even then, I think this is going to be like an RBBC for maybe the first 7, 8, 9, 10 games, and then you're going to start seeing him more and more into the back half of the year, which is exactly where you want him when you're into this contending area. 106 is this. I'm just going to go 106 and 107 here. 106, 107, Devonta Smith, Jaylen Waddle, back-to-back. Devonta Smith is my wide receiver 2 now, but barely. I mean, him and Jamar Chase are on the same tier, and you could even say Waddle's up into that tier as well. He is my wide receiver 3, Jaylen Waddle, because of that Miami perfect situation that he is. He's with Tua again. But I think Devonta Smith is the wide receiver he doesn't go to Philadelphia to die. Yeah, his fantasy value doesn't go to die. I think he actually is going to be the alpha there, and I think he's going to be a really good contributor to Jalen Hurts, who is not a good passing quarterback, but they got targets, and you saw Travis Fulgham succeed at times as an alpha, I guess you could say, and he wasn't something special like Devonta Smith. Number 7 was Waddle, high upside, probably the highest upsides we're talking about in this draft. Does have a little bit more bust rate, and that's why he's my wide receiver 3. He has that chance to have some ability where he might not be contributing if you have like Will Fuller and stuff that end up succeeding into that offense for a longer term. I know Will Fuller only on a 1-year contract, but then you have Devontae Parker too that is there as well. Which, again, Jaylen Waddle should be the alpha there. So this is where we start getting into wide receivers that still might be alphas, but are in a little bit less situations. We have Rashad Bateman was 108 on this draft. I think that's a good situation for him. It'll be interesting to see if he's behind Trevor Lawrence, ahead of Trevor Lawrence. You get this kind of like Bateman, the Moores kind of tier, and that's going to be an interesting situation for them. Number 9 was Elijah Moore, and Elijah Moore, awesome wide receiver. He's going to be a Jet, which is kind of an interesting situation with Denzel Mims and Corey Davis there, with Zach Wilson being a rookie. So you might have a little bit slower start for Elijah Moore, but you're going to see this guy that is going to be in the slot. He's going to be getting a ton of catches, the Jamison Crowder role, and that's going to be a valuable role, especially in PPR. Number 10, we got Trey Sermon. This is where we start reaching for running backs, because you're going to see teams that are going to reach for running backs, and it's not going to be, you're going to miss the Terrace Marshalls, you're going to miss the Rondell Moores. You might even miss Elijah Moore. I could see these running backs starting to creep up. They're not in my top 12, but they are starting to creep into these drafts. And at 10, somebody reached and picked Sermon, and he is not in a first-round draft pick, in my opinion. I still think Elijah Mitchell is going to cause some issues there, and they have other running backs as well. They have Jeff Wilson Jr., they have Raheem Mostert. I think it's going to be a mess back there, and they still have Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, which are both really good dump-off players and really good running receivers. Number 11 is going to be Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, again, once a generational talent. He doesn't have the highest upside like a Trey Lance, but he does have the highest, safest floor by far of any player. You're going to see Trevor Lawrence in this 110 to probably 202 range. I think that's where you're going to see him in 12-team leagues. I think that's going to be the range, 111 here. And I can honestly see Terrace Marshall and stuff like drafted before him, and maybe even a couple other players drafted ahead of him, like the next player, which is 112, which is Michael Carter. Not my first round pick. I would definitely, he's a 4th round running back, which we don't see 4th round running backs actually succeed greatly, or at least that often. But Michael Carter in a perfect situation because there's no one else there. I mean, you have Tevin Coleman, you have P. Ryan, you have Ty Johnson. Like, you have these running backs that are not going to be performing well. So it might be just like Michael Carter's show in 2021. In 2022, they might draft another running back, a second round or third round running back, along with Miami or Atlanta. Like these teams still need running backs, and you could see that. Or they might even draft somebody, or they might even pick somebody up in free agency like a Gurley, which just makes that situation ugly or something like that. But Michael Carter, 112, him and Sermon, the pattern that I'm seeing is they're going to be drafted at this end of this first. And these are mid-second, I would say. Mid-ish second. I will put out some rankings here soon, but they're like mid-ish second behind some of these wide receivers that are like Terrace Marshall and Rondell Moore. Like those wide receivers are easily, in my opinion, ahead of these two running backs because I think these wide receivers they're a lot more safe. And these running backs, if I'm going after a running back, I am trying to put all in for these top 3 running backs because I feel like those 3 running backs are safe. And then you start getting to 4, 5, and 6, and you start talking about a lot more risk, which is Michael Carter, Trey Sermon, and Kenneth Gainwell. A lot more risk, not nearly as much capital, 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounders, in the NFL draft, which we saw how that translates to the NFL, and it's not as great there. So what you're going to see, again, kind of a summary, is you're going to see Chase and Pitts move up. You're also going to see these running backs move up, and you're going to see some of these depth wide receivers move back, and that is where you start succeeding, and that's where you start taking these players, and then take the Trey Lances in the early to mid-second, and you take the Justin Fields in the early to mid-second, and the Zach Wilsons, and the Pat Freiermuths, and even the Brevin Jordans into the mid and late second, and that's where you start succeeding, and you start separating yourself away from these other teams. But so this is the first round of the first draft that I actually saw right after the NFL draft. You're probably not getting this until like Wednesday, but you know what? Whatever. I just want to point this out there that this is a draft, and these are patterns that I'm going to be seeing a ton. I think I'm going to see Rondale Moore and Terrace Marshall, and even Rodgers. I think I'm going to see these wide receivers drop into the early to mid second, even maybe even late second. And I'm rather having these wide receivers. I'm rather having these wide receivers ahead of these running backs, honestly. And even if I am a quarterback needy team, I might even be drafting a couple of these quarterbacks like the Justin Fields and the Trey Lance over some of these running backs that I think are a lot more risky. Just because I don't have a lot of faith in Trey Sermon, and I don't have a lot of faith in Michael Carter. I have more faith in Michael Carter. He's my RB4. I have a little less faith in Trey Sermon that he's going to be the alpha there and that he's going to tear it apart. I think that Jeff Wilson, and I think Raheem Mostert are going to be the majority of the starting running backs for San Francisco, and they're going to throw a little Debo sprinkle in there. So, again, this is Marcus Dynasty Football Dads. We review daily Dynasty videos. That's a sign-free Jerry Jeudy jersey. Say that 10 times fast. I will see you tomorrow. Peace out. Take care.
Now turn up.